It's two people talking, Barry and Pauline. Benny, sorry, not Barry, Benny says, so how's Diggleby Park these days? Pauline says, oh, coming along, you know, we've just acquired a new leisure complex and the shopping centre's going from strength to strength. Benny says, what's it got in it then? She says, the shopping centre? Well, there's a Sainsbury's and a Debenhams, quite a nice little bookshop, and all manner of clothes shops and jewellers. So you can stock up on food, at the same time buy something interesting to read, and then deck yourself out like nobody's business. Benny says, no, I meant the leisure thingy actually. What does it consist of? Is it just a sort of glorified gymnasium? Pauline says, oh no, far from it. It's got a swimming pool for one thing, a really serious affair, diving boards and all, a sauna and a jacuzzi, and also some of those water shoot things, which the children are crazy about. And as well as that, there's squash, badminton and so on. Now, I think it would be a good thing, first of all, for you to practice it together. So, could you act as a pair? I know you're sitting in threes, but you have to find a way of doing this so that you can practice this dialogue just to run through it, to familiarise yourselves with it. So, have 2 or 3 minutes now just to practice the dialogue together. Go on. And say again, if you're familiar with phonetic symbols, then that maybe is useful. Otherwise, don't worry about it. I'd rather, if we concentrate now on things like the right rhythm and intonation and so on. First of all, Benny says, so how's Diggleby Park these days? Diggleby, well, I'm just inventing name. So how's Diggleby Park these days? Where is the intonation nucleus going to go? The nucleus is the most important bit in the intonation, the last bit of new information. And usually that goes at the end. But this sentence ends, notice, with an adverbial expression, these days. And one of the things about adverbial expressions at the ends of sentences is they tend to come after the nucleus. So we normally say, so how's Diggleby Park these days? Park these days, these days, these days is in the table below. And of course this is just a way of making conversation. You see somebody, you haven't seen them for quite a time, you say, so how's such and such a place that they live in? Somebody says to me, how's London these days? I see somebody from Manchester, how's Manchester these days? I see Professor Lee, I say, how's Seoul these days? How's Fukuoka these days? Ask your neighbour, how is so-and-so these days? So how's Diggleby Park these days? These days. Here again, we've got something special at the end. We've got you know. Now, you know means nothing at all. We don't need it. It certainly doesn't get the intonation. The intonation needs to concentrate on the verb, phrasal verb, and the most usual pattern here is in fact a fall plus rise. So we get something like, coming along, you know. Oh, coming along, you know. Oh, coming along, you know. Coming along, you know. Doing all right. Coming along. Again, this means nothing at all. The whole conversation is just chit-chat. Coming along, you know. Now we come to some real information. We've just acquired a new leisure complex. British English leisure, American English leisure. British though is leisure. A leisure complex is a building where you can play sports and do other leisure activities. That's called a leisure complex or a sports complex. It's a compound noun, so the stress comes on the first part, a leisure complex, a sports complex. after that. And we're going to get the nucleus, therefore, on leisure. We've probably just acquired a new leisure complex. We've just acquired a new leisure complex. We've just acquired a new leisure complex. Can you elide this T? Could we say just acquired? No, we can't. You can elide T from ST before a consonant sound, just been, just think, but not before a vowel sound. So here we need the T, just acquired. Acquired, I might say just acquired, 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 you must understand, acquired. A new leisure complex, not ledger but leisure. Leisure, practice leisure, leisure, leisure. A ledger is a book, ledger, an accounts book, ledger. Your free time is your leisure, leisure, leisure. Is this free time or is this an accounts book? Ledger, accounts book. And the shopping centres going from strength to strength. Probably a 4 rise there, shopping centre. The shopping centre. A shopping centre is what the Americans call a mall. I'm sure you know about them. A shopping centre. Shopping centres going from strength to strength. And the shopping centres going from strength to strength. Going from strength to strength. There's a difficult phrase to practice. Going, that could be smooth to going. Going from, weak form from. Going from strength, one syllable. Strength to strength. Strength to strength. Going from strength to strength. The shopping centres going from strength to strength. Let's try the whole thing now, phrase by phrase, after me. So how's Digglesby Park these days? So how's Digglesby Park these days? Oh, coming along, you know. Oh, coming along, you know. We've just acquired a new leisure complex. We've just acquired a new leisure complex. And the shopping centre's going from strength to strength. And the shopping centre's going from strength to strength. Right. Now, see if you can transcribe the next phrase. What's it got in it then? See if you can write it down in phonetic symbols. Write it down in phonetic symbols. But there are the vowels and consonants. What's it got in it then? What's it got in it then? Do you remember what we said about glottal stops? These could be glottal, couldn't they? What's it got in it then? 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 Of these various T's, the one that is most likely to be made properly with a tongue tip is the one got in it. For me, that must be ideal though. What's it got in it? The others can be glottal. But for my 20-year-old students, native speakers, they can all be glottal. What's it got in it? I would say, what's it got in it? What's it got in it? What's it got in it then? What's it got in it then? What's it got in it then? Where does the nucleus go? Then? No. Then doesn't tell us anything. It? No. It is a pronoun. It, strangely enough, although it is a preposition, that's the important thing. That's where we're asking about the contents of the shopping centre. What's it got in it? So, that's right, we'll put the nucleus on in. What's it got in it then? What's it got in it then? What's it got in it then? What's it got in it? What's, of course, means what has. What has it got in it? What has it in it? What is there in it? What's it got in it then? Yes, try saying, what's it got in it then? What's it got in it then? Again? What's it got in it then? Not what is it, but what's it, what's it, what's it, what's it got in it? What's it got got in it then? Well, now Pauline answers. She's not sure. She's not sure what it refers to. Is it going to be the leisure complex or is it going to be the shopping centre? She tries the shopping centre. She asks the shopping centre. In order to ask it, with no question word, she must use a rising tone. So she's going to need a rising tone. Compound, shopping centre, stressed therefore on the first element. So we're going to get a pattern. The shopping centre, the shopping centre, the shopping centre, the shopping centre, the shopping centre. Notice that compound nouns in English usually have early stress. Shopping centre, shopping centre. Japanese learners sometimes produce something like shopping centre. But it's not shopping centre, it's shopping centre. Shopping centre. And as Professor Taniguchi has explained to me, in English we say passport, but Japanese learners sometimes want to make it passport. 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 It's not passport, it's passport. Or in American English, passport. But still stressed on the first hand. Passport. Passport. Okay, shopping centre. Now here we have a list of things. Well, there's a Sainsbury's and a Debenhams, quite a nice little bookshop, and all manner of clothes shops and jewellery. When we have a list, we tend to use a rising tone, another rising tone, another rising tone, and finally a falling tone. We've got A, B, C, and D. So let's do that here. There's a Sainsbury's and a Debenhams, quite a nice little bookshop, and all manner of clothes shops and jewellers. That's going to be the rough framework. Well, there's a Sainsbury's. Do you remember what I said about compression? Well, it could be Sainsbury's, but usually we now say Sainsbury's. Sainsbury's, two syllables. Sainsbury's. What does Sainsbury's sell? Does anybody know? What does Sainsbury's sell? Who's been in England? Who's been? Debenhams. Quite a nice little bookshop. Quite a nice little bookshop. What does a bookshop sell? Books. Good. Quite a nice little bookshop. Quite a nice little bookshop. If you prefer, you can make a vocalized L in little and say little. Quite a nice little bookshop. Little bookshop. Little bookshop. American English little. Little, 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 laterally released tap, little, nice little bookshop, and all manner of clothes shops and jewellers. And all manner of clothes shops and jewellers. Now, and all manner of linking R, manner of, we put off, manner of clothes, with both the clothes, shops. But because we've got clothes shops, we might get an assimilation and say clothes shops. Clothes shops. Clothes shops. Clothes shops and jewellers. Jewellers. When we have ooh, you can get a kind of smoothing that gives you jewellers. Jewellers. There's also a vulgar London pronunciation, jewellers, which we don't recommend. Jewellers. Jewellers. All manner of clothes shops and jewellers. Okay, let's try that bit all together, phrase by phrase, after me. What's it got in it then?
What's it got in it then?
The shopping centre?
shopping center?
Well, it's a Sainsbury's.
Sainsbury's?
And a Debenhams. Quite a nice little bookshop.
Quite a nice little bookshop.
And all manner of clothes shops and jewellers.
And all manner of clothes shops and jewellers.
Which is the symbol we use nowadays. Older books used that symbol, but we now make the difference between lot and thought, writing that in lot and this in thought. In American English, of course, it has R, sharp, but in British English it's rounded, lot, shop. Any other questions? Anybody else got a question to ask? So you can stock up on food. Stock up on food. So you can stock up on food. Notice strong forms and weak forms. So then you weakens a bit to you. Can weakens to can. So you can stock up. So you can stock up on food. At the same time, probably a level there. At the same time, buy something interesting. At the same time, buy something interesting. At the same time, weak forms and becomes us. At the same time, buy something interesting. Alternatively, you could say interesting, but I normally say interesting. Interesting. Buy something interesting. Oh, I'm sorry, I put a mark in where I shouldn't because it's something interesting to read, isn't it? So let's cut that one out. Something interesting to read. Buy 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 something interesting to read. To read, we usually change to t before a consonant, to read. Though here the R is lip rounded, so perhaps you can't hear that. To read, to read. Buy something interesting to read. Then, what else can you do? Then deck yourself out like nobody's business. This is an idiom. Like nobody's business means very beautifully. Like nobody's business. Deck yourself out like nobody's business. To deck yourself out means to ornament yourself, to adorn yourself, to dress yourself. And then deck yourself out like nobody's business. Yourself usually keeps strong your, not yourself, but yourself. Deck yourself out. Americans weaken it to yourself. Deck yourself out like nobody's business. Older pronunciation, business, with is. Nowadays, about 3/4 of people we estimate say with nus, business. Both are still correct, but business is more usual. Business. Usual pronunciation is nobody. You could say nobody, but usually in somebody and nobody, we change body to the D. Somebody's talking, nobody's outside. Is there anybody there? Anybody, both are possible. There's somebody outside. Somebody. Alright, let's try it all together, phrase by phrase. So you can stock up on food. At the same time, buy something interesting to read. And then deck yourself out like nobody's business. I'm going to say act actually. No. Very slow, very careful is actually. But this is a very frequent word, very commonly used, and it gets simplified a bit. What does it become? Well, it might be actually, or it might just be actually, or it might be actually, or it might even be actually. I'm going to recommend an intermediate form. Actually, 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 actually. Shut up, matter. Actually. I meant the leisure thing in the actually. What does it consist of? Now, weak form does becomes does. What does it consist of? Wise of strong. Because it's been stranded. Preposition stranded to consist of something. What does it consist of? Stranded preposition has to be strong. What does it consist of? What does it consist of? What does it consist of? Now, I must tell you that in colloquial speech, and particularly in American English, you sometimes get a further reduction to what's it consist of. In other words, what does sometimes becomes what's. I meant the leisure thingamy, actually. No, I meant the leisure thingamy, actually. No, I meant the leisure thingamy, actually. No, I meant the leisure thingamy, actually. I fall on leisure. I meant the leisure thing. Final adverb, said with a rising tone, actually. No, I meant the leisure thing, actually. Now we need a stress on what? What's? Yes, no question? No, it's a WH question. So, high fall. WH question, what does it consist of? What does it consist of? What does it consist of? Then we have a yes-no question. Is it just a sort of glorified gymnasium? Is it just a sort of glorified gymnasium? Is it just a sort of glorified gymnasium? The stress on is optional. We could also say it is just a sort. So with or without a stress here. Is it just a sort of glorified gymnasium? Gymnasium, we discussed lenient becoming lenient. Similarly, gymnasium could become gymnasium. 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 Don't make it into there, don't say gymnasium. No, no. Gymnasium. 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 That's a sort of glorified gymnasium. Oh no, far from it. Now, here again we have an idiom, an intonation idiom. I'm afraid we say far from it. Now, you can see that again is a preposition from. You would expect us to say far from it. We don't. We say far from it. I apologise on behalf of the English language because because again I have no explanation. That's what we say, far from it. Far from it. It's certainly not. Far from it. Far from it. Oh no, far from it. It's got a swimming pool, for one thing. Try. No, I meant the leisure thingy, actually.
No, I meant the leisure thingy, actually.
Actually, or actually, if you prefer, yes, actually. What does it consist of?
What does it consist of?
What does it consist of? What does it consist of? Is it just a sort of glorified gymnasium?
Just a sort of glorified gymnasium.
And the rest you just have to listen and repeat. Oh no, far from it.
Oh no, far from it.
Next August, we have it every year for 2 weeks. A few copies of the brochure if anybody wants.